Alright, busia for me chachi obi asa mo bibia kwa ababiem de ba odene hoti me gidi so oba de ada romanti obibia ho ye obibia ho ye de ha ye odene hoti ha de de update no trending news nko na ye de so me viewers me ahefo na e YouTube channel no so na se nsem bi ebubo free IMF akache anya asem keto akwa ema ye financial minister K.Ofori Atta etimi kopie mu wo amanone kohyia IMF boss a omo twetwe nkomo bi efa yisika omo de maaye $600 million say Ghana ye fambe boa ma economy ne nkoso na sisi nsem bi bobo fi oba enya asem 20 be kwa kotie nsem no mu nchemu ye pa ba na ne de di kan so oti odi no TV amema remfi se obe subscribe to our channel obe like odo wadwe nche so ebegu comment section kama ebehwim ne akinkan bibia amamo video bibia ase bekwa kotie abasisi a
K.Ofori Atta etu kwan eko America bochimem koshia IMF boss Mama Christina ene ni didi nkomo another host of things na nyame adom Ghana enya IMF bailout no in early this year and IMF bailout around May June and buy ema IMF ema iska kakra say yen financial so $600 million buy America say Ghana say the next $600 million wabitum na they have finance year budget for next year na IMF discussions course no and America say IMF omu chief mission and as a mission chief for Ghana IMF for mission chief for Ghana our friend Stefan Rudet and ye senior in journalism Bernard Koku Avele Eddie Nkomo on your sister station City TV. So now IMF boss to Ghana Stefan Rudet deliver good news. Eddie ama Ghana ni bia what's your voice and I pay about Ghana economy. According to Stefan Rudet, no, they are surprised. My main kind it was the Ghana's economy activities I have to say have surprised us on the outside. You remember that in the program we were projecting economic growth of 1.5% for this year. Now we have the outcome of the first half of the year and we are about 3%. And so you can see that there are signs that are encouraging. According to Stefan Rudet, IMF, World Bank, Ghana economy this year it will grow at 1.5%. But Ghana and be engagement with K.Ofori Atta Ghana and Kratan Ghana grow times 2, 1.5. Ghana grow 3%. Encouraging. Yenkuni kuti ura friend Stefan Rudet. We no touch a bit about Ghana. Ye programs abaino launch program be a friend of Ghana livelihood empowerment against poverty. Kofo program or the buy in the year 2008 IMF access deal or the ne kasa etuja or chema that program na Ghana buy Kofo introduced way back 2008 a year jumapa we or the tuja coming forward say IMF any discussions with Ghana we DNS also be my ever go and listen to the good news from Stefan Rudet, IMF chief mission in Ghana.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We were also assessing that growth would be of the order of 1.5% for this year. What we're seeing now is above that, so we will have to revise our growth projection up in the context of this review. And this is of course very good news because it means that in spite of the challenges that the Ghanaian economy has faced, the high inflation, the loss of market access for the government, and in spite of that, the economy is resilient and growth is still around 3% at the current juncture. So very, very good news indeed.
But does it matter where the growth is coming from, or at this stage, growth is growth? Because I heard people ask, for example, that if you had growth from industrial or even agri, because they employ more people, that's a better outlook. But growth from services, even though service is great, they feel like that's not the type of growth that you really want to see. At this level, does it matter where the growth is coming from, or you're just interested in the figure?
Well, we'd love to see broad-based growth, and we're confident that at some point this is what is going to happen. But I think the Ghanaians should take pride in having good performance in the services sector. Traditionally, services are very important for job creation. You know, seeing a strong performance on that front is very good news.
Inflation as well, you did indicate that 54 coming down to 40 is great, but 40 is still very high. The challenge is, whilst you need to let people know we've made progress, there's a view also that if we sell a premature message of recovery, people will get complacent. I'll give you an example. 68% of the population, food accounts for half of their expenditure. Food inflation is still 51.9%. So that's a very serious situation. So I understand what you're saying with inflation, that it's come down from 54, but how do you balance that progress with the reality that a general inflation of 40% and a food inflation of 51.9 is still very, very high?
We have to acknowledge, and I believe the authorities acknowledge the reality. The Central Bank of Ghana is not comfortable with an inflation rate as 40%. This is why the bank has tightened its monetary policy stance, precisely to bring inflation down. But our point is that this is working. Those policies are working, and we are on track to see even lower inflation rates going forward. And this is a source of hope. But of course, more needs to be done. And the situation, a difficult situation like the one Ghana was facing last year, cannot be turned around just, instantly. It takes time. That calls for patience. That calls for perseverance on the policy front. And this is what we are seeing.
This is great. I'm not trying to have an economic debate with you, but there's a strong view among some economists in Ghana that the central bank's inflation targeting doesn't really work, partly because they feel some of the inflation is supply side, is cost issues and not monetary issues. So the constant adjustment of the policy rate is not really the solution to inflation. So that there has to be other things on the real sector that brings inflation down. So I just don't want your comment generally on that, because there's a view that indeed the central bank adjusting the rate actually crowds out important credit to private sector. So maybe they need to take a second look at their inflation targeting policy. Is this something within the remit of the review to look at and to comment on in the short to medium term?
No, the program has been designed based on the monetary policy framework that the Bank of Ghana is using, which is indeed an inflation targeting regime. And we have been very comfortable with that regime. And quite frankly, bringing inflation down is not just about monetary policy. It's the total package of the policies that are being implemented within the context of the program that matters. The fiscal consolidation effort is very important in this respect. Monetary policy and the tight monetary policy is very important. And I think we are getting comfort from the fact that we are seeing in the numbers that this is working. All right? We have a 15 percentage points reduction in the inflation rate since the beginning of the year. So it is working, it's going in the right direction.
Your press conference was addressed by the Minister of Finance and the Governor. Are you concerned about the pressure the Governor is facing around the losses that the central bank had to take from its lendings to the government? I know those questions didn't come up at the press conference, but if you follow the news in Ghana, there was a demonstration last week about that. Some are calling for the governor's head. For a program like this, you work with the fiscal and the monetary authorities. For the monetary authorities to be under severe pressure from civil society and the opposition, how does that affect the delivery of the program?
It doesn't really affect the delivery of the program. I think what we are seeing on our side when we engage with the Ghanaian authorities is excellent collaboration between the fiscal authorities, the Ministry of Finance in this case, and the Central Bank of Ghana. And Ghana facing very difficult economic and financial situations. In a context like this one, this is something that is very, very important, and we are seeing that. As far as the central bank is concerned, indeed, the central bank has incurred losses in 2022, and the domestic debt restructuring has had an impact.